Ever found yourself dreaming of all the things you could do, but laziness somehow keeps you stuck right where you are? The days go by, and your dreams start sliding onto that maybe one day list. But what if I told you there's a Zen teaching that can flip this whole situation around? No, it's not about magic formulas or overnight makeovers. This teaching comes from ancient wisdom that, with a few simple steps, can bring real and quick change, a sense of accomplishment that feels within reach. Curious how this wisdom could transform your life? Let's dive into this lesson that so few truly understand. In a quiet village where everyone was busy with their daily work, there was a young man who stood out not for hard work, but for his laziness. He'd always be found lounging under a tree, lost in daydreams, while life buzzed with activity around him. People laughed, saying he was off exploring the world of dreams, but he just laughed back, shrugging off responsibility. His laziness was almost a trademark. Wherever he went, people knew he wouldn't likely be up to anything productive. Amidst the village's peaceful vibe, he was stuck in a routine of total inactivity. To him, it all had a reason. What's the rush? Life goes by fast, and rest is important, he'd say with a half-serious, half-joking tone. The young man even had a knack for convincing others that his laziness was a life philosophy, and some folks would actually find themselves thinking it over. Maybe he thought he was one of the few who truly got that to live is to do nothing. But sometimes, even he wondered, what if this life of shade and rest wasn't all there was? Something deep down felt restless, though he covered it up pretty well, laughing it off as he lay back under the tree. But like any good mystery life holds in store, his peaceful vibe wasn't going to last forever. One day, as he was yawning and gazing up at the sky, he noticed a monk quietly watching him. People in the village whispered that this monk had a special aura, a kind of presence that wrapped everyone in wisdom without him saying a word. The monk approached, carrying with him an unusual task, something only someone with Zen patience could dream up. The young man, still unaware, was about to see his world turned upside down. With that penetrating gaze, the monk came closer and, without beating around the bush, gave him an unexpected challenge. He asked the young man to retrieve a single feather from a cave beyond the peak of the highest mountain in the area. For someone who'd never dared venture past the village limits, it sounded like an impossible task. But there was something in the way the monk spoke, a mix of mystery and calm, that sparked a bit of curiosity in the young man. Laziness almost won out, but his curiosity was stronger, and he accepted the challenge. The monk then explained that the path to the peak would be long and full of challenges, and the young man would need to prepare for something more demanding than anything he'd ever faced. As the monk spoke, the young man tried to hide his nerves. He'd never imagined climbing mountains or stepping into dark caves. Yet there was a certain pull to the challenge, something that felt tailor-made for him, as if that simple feather held a secret only he could unlock. Without fully understanding why, he decided he'd give it a shot. With a sigh and one last, almost resentful look at his resting tree, the young man set off, leaving behind the place that had always kept him in his comfort zone. The village, the townspeople, and the monk all watched as he walked away, carrying a mix of doubt and excitement. This journey was promising much more than he had anticipated, and though he didn't know it yet, this challenge was only the beginning of something bigger. With each step, he found himself more intrigued about what lay ahead. Maybe, just maybe, he was ready to find out. With each step toward the mountain, he could feel the weight of the journey, a mix of exhaustion and nervous energy. The trail was steep, and the rocky ground wasn't making his mission any easier. Before long, he started questioning his decision to take on the challenge. But in the middle of the fatigue, something unexpected began to stir, a spark of excitement, like he was uncovering a part of himself that had never been tested. This feeling pushed him forward, even as his mind kept reminding him of the cool shade of his tree back in the village. As he went on, the young man noticed that the small obstacles along the path no longer seemed as intimidating. Rocks, branches, and steep slopes started to feel like part of the journey itself, almost like companions in this adventure. With every turn and every hurdle he crossed, he felt a hint of pride, a budding confidence that made him feel he was, in fact, capable of something greater. The image of the monk and the promise of that distant feather lingered in his mind, but now he was more focused on his next step than the destination itself. Finally, looking up and seeing the mountain's peak, he realized just how far he had come, in distance and in courage. The climb that once seemed endless now encouraged him with each step forward, and each heavy breath reminded him he was getting closer. It was as if the challenge itself was building his strength, helping him see beyond his usual laziness. Maybe, he thought, the real reward wasn't the feather but what he was discovering about himself along the way. Upon reaching the top of the mountain, he was met with a view that took his breath away. Standing there with the wind on his face and the world below him was something he'd never imagined experiencing. And there, at the entrance of the cave, was the feather the monk had mentioned, as if it had been waiting for him all along. As he picked it up, a wave of accomplishment washed over him, like a surge of energy sweeping away all his exhaustion. For the first time, he tasted the satisfaction of true achievement. With the feather in his hand, he felt that this journey was so much more than just going after an object. It was as if that small feather represented his victory over his own laziness, a tangible proof that he could push beyond the limits that had always held him back. He held this symbol with a pride he hadn't felt in a long time, something he once thought unreachable. Instead of wanting to go back to his tree, he now realized he didn't need it like before. The triumph of reaching that feather felt far greater than any rest he'd ever had. As he stood there, thinking about his journey, he began to notice a new voice in his mind, a voice telling him he was capable of so much more. The feather was just the start of something bigger, a small glimpse of potential he didn't even know he had. And as the sun set, casting a golden glow over the mountain, he felt that this realization could be the key to a fuller, more meaningful life. There was so much more to explore, more mountains to climb, and that thought excited him like never before. As he made his way back down the mountain and returned to the village, the young man found the monk waiting for him with a slight approving smile. The monk then shared the true lesson behind this mission. Laziness isn't something to just ignore or condemn. It's a challenge to be faced. He explained that by overcoming his laziness, the young man hadn't just completed a task. He had developed self-discipline and discovered the power of setting goals. For many people, laziness can be an invisible barrier holding them back, but the monk showed him that it can be conquered through small, daily steps. The monk went on to explain that setting goals, even small ones, is key to keeping the spirit active and the mind focused. He suggested that the young man keep looking for challenges, maybe learn a new skill, or even help someone in the village. When a goal is clear, laziness starts to lose its grip, and the excitement of achieving it takes over. For instance, someone who wants to learn to play an instrument can start by practicing for just a few minutes a day, creating a habit that breaks through inertia and turns a wish into reality. As the young man listened, he realized that laziness had always been a shadow holding him back from exploring his true potential. Now he felt ready to face it, knowing that each challenge overcome was another step toward a meaningful life. With a feather in his hand and a clear mind, he understood that the key to beating laziness was creating a clear vision for the future, something that motivated him to keep going. He wasn't the same person anymore, and what had started as a simple task had awakened him to his own strength. With a light heart and an open mind, the young man saw that every challenge was a chance to grow. The monk taught him that by adopting a growth mindset, he could turn any difficulty into an opportunity to learn and become stronger. It was no longer about avoiding obstacles, but about seeing himself as someone who could rise above them. This new way of thinking opened doors in his mind where there had only been excuses not to act. He realized that every small effort brought with it the chance to evolve. The monk continued, explaining that seeing challenges as allies, not enemies, is what sets apart those who grow from those who settle. He encouraged the young man to seek experiences that pushed him out of his comfort zone, like learning from more experienced people, reading books by great masters, and even getting more involved in village life. The daily habit of seeking growth, even in small actions, builds a solid foundation for the mind to thrive. With that, the young man learned that with determination, he could achieve anything he set his mind to. Now, with this new perspective, he looked at life completely differently, as a series of opportunities just waiting to be explored. He realized that laziness, though an old habit, didn't need to run his days anymore. Instead of dreading effort, he began to see activity as a path to reach his dreams and strengthen his spirit. The feather he brought back from the mountain was more than just a symbol of success. It was a reminder that he could always choose to grow and broaden his horizons. His journey, it seemed, was just beginning. So, how about putting this Zen teaching into practice and seeing how small changes could transform your life? Ask yourself, how many opportunities have you already missed because of laziness? And what if, starting today, you gave yourself the challenge of overcoming one obstacle at a time? What might you discover about your own potential? Maybe what you're hoping for is just waiting for a chance to reveal itself. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep going on this journey of learning. Every step counts.